You've been chasing something for as long as you can remember, whether it's a goal, a new chapter, or just that next big moment. But no matter how hard you try, the future always slips through your fingers, doesn't it? The more you push forward, the less you seem to actually live. The constant drive to reach what's ahead has blinded you to something far more powerful, something that's been right in front of you all along. So here's the real question. How much longer will you let the endless chase of what's next rob you of the only thing that truly matters now? If you're truly committed to your personal growth, now's the perfect moment to take action. Subscribe to our channel Motivation Basics and like this video if you're committed to improve every day. Don't keep this to yourself and share it with someone who's ready to break through their own barriers today. Let's stop talking and start doing this together. Eckhart Tolle, in his powerful book, The Power of Now, reveals a profound truth about time. Time is what keeps the light from reaching us. We're constantly looking at our watch, thinking about the next thing, and ultimately, we miss what is happening right now. Embracing the present moment requires letting go of the impulse to control or anticipate what's to come. Since looking forward is human nature, and because we all tend to believe that the next moment will be better than the one we're in right now, this change of perspective is communal as well as individual. Still, we know that there is no such thing as future. There is only the present. This is a radical shift in mindset. We spend most of our lives chasing what we think will bring us happiness, assuming that the next step will be the one that finally satisfies us. Yet, this pursuit of the future often keeps us from realizing that the satisfaction we've been longing for is right here, right now. Tolle calls this the endless seeking that distracts us from the stillness and peace that can only be found in the present. When you are present, the past and future dissolve. Time is not only irrelevant but a part of the problem. Embracing the present moment to its fullest, accepting reality as it is, and relishing the serenity that comes with pausing to seek something greater, are all themes that this journey is meant to illuminate. I believe you have a reason for being here. First things first. You are receptive to self-improvement opportunities so that you can become a more mindful and present individual. The importance of being consistent in order to progress is why I believe you would enjoy subscribing to our channel. Our channel is filled with videos that can help you on this spiritual journey. Tolle urges us to awaken from this trance of constant seeking, encouraging us to realize that the present moment holds all the answers we need. He writes in The Power of Now, realize deeply that the present moment is all you have. Make the now the primary focus of your life. This insight is not about abandoning the future or denying our ambitions. It's about understanding that the future exists only in our minds, and when we focus too much on it, we are missing the life that is unfolding in the present. Observing someone's responses, interactions, and activities might occasionally show whether they aren't giving it their all. They are either too preoccupied with faraway futures to show up now, or they are too scared that those futures will come true. Some people appear to be radiating an attitude that says, "I'd rather be somewhere else. It's not me." Those bumper stickers that read, "I'd rather be fishing," are a good analogy. The expressions on their faces and the energy they exude say it all. But the attitude is unchanged. I would want to be in another place. At all times, it appears like they are pursuing something. This feeling is universal, and it's been described by many, including Eckhart Tolle, as the state of inner unrest. It's that nagging feeling that something is missing, that the future holds the promise of something better. This mindset is not only exhausting, it's also misleading. Tolle teaches us that by always seeking something outside ourselves, we fail to recognize that we already have everything we need right now to feel peace and fulfillment. Primary cause of unhappiness is never the situation, but your thoughts about it, Tolle writes in A New Earth. The truth is, no matter how much we chase the future, we will never be able to escape the present moment. Doing so may help you prepare for the thrill and anxiety of being totally absorbed in one's thoughts. Right now, they are definitely not comfortable. You could keep on living that way forever, and that's just the beginning. The material self would rather be here and now, a social trend, not an individual issue. That is the result. Because no one else is affected, it's easy to see how one's own mind wants to live in the future and is unhappy with the present. Characteristic of this mindset is fixation on the future at the expense of enjoying the present moment. Because this is the only moment that will ever exist, there is no way to predict what the future holds. It remains the same, for some reason. Consequently, the following anxious thoughts follow. There has to be more. Not this. This is obviously not it. Concern about the future is represented by this concept. So, whether it's a minute, a week, or a year from now, thinking about the future is always looking ahead to a different period. Is there anything that could harm Earth, you, or someone important to you? As a result of a terrifying dream you had, you are certain that bad things will happen in the future. I worry about the future because I keep picturing the worst-case scenario and how terrified I am of it. Here's where Tolle's wisdom can help you. He explains that anxiety about the future is often rooted in a fear of the unknown, and this fear can only exist when we are not present in the now. In The Power of Now, he writes, the more you focus on the future, the more you increase your anxiety and fear, because the future is unknown. But the present moment is always known. It's what we have now, in this very moment. When we learn to let go of the future, we free ourselves from the anxiety it brings, and instead, we begin to embrace the peace of the present. Conversely, there's this peculiar, almost addictive urge to want even more of it. No matter how terrible it seems, it's actually just for my own benefit. The purpose is to ensure its own survival, an increasingly depressing condition characterized by anxious fear and pessimism. No, this is important, the person says, their mind firmly fixed on the dreadful future ahead. Let me watch this. Apologies for sharing this future-related anxiety. People continue to do this despite repeated requests that they cease. What keeps us trapped in this cycle is the mind's attachment to its own stories. These stories, often based on fear and desire, take us away from the present moment and keep us entangled in thoughts about what could happen next. But as Tolle teaches us, the mind is a superb instrument if used rightly. Used wrongly, however, it becomes very destructive. The trick is learning how to detach from these mental patterns and return to the present moment, where peace resides. The next thing I know, I'll feel an overwhelming desire to do whatever it takes to become the best version of myself. Clearly, I am unable to complete it without contemplating the future. There are some things that require my undivided attention. The attitude that creates and sustains this future is closely related to the following two emotions: fear and want. This is where most people struggle, caught between the desire to be better, the fear of not being enough, and the overwhelming thought that they must be more in order to feel complete. But as Tolle explains, when you no longer need the future to complete you, you can begin to experience life as it is right now. The future will always be elusive, and no matter how much we strive, the truth is that it will never bring the fulfillment we seek. True peace, Tolle tells us, lies in the present. That characteristic is inherent in every human being. When you become aware of its presence within you, a feeling of relief will wash over you. Symptoms of that unusual disease include unease with the present situation, a desire for mental protection, and a lack of stability. Timely. Living like this isn't real life. At its core, everything occurs in the present moment. Everything in the cosmos is contained within it right now. Because your perception is always limited to the present moment, whatever is happening at this particular moment is always happening at this particular moment is always happening. The moment you acknowledge that you are trapped in the cycle of future, focused thinking, you begin the journey of liberation. Eckhart Tolle's teachings guide us toward the realization that everything we seek is right here, in the present moment. The past and future are in the mind only. The present moment is all you will ever have. This awareness of the now is the key to breaking free from the endless cycle of worry and anxiety. You're constantly fighting, avoiding, or ignoring the here and now. You'll never be able to have an open relationship with the lovely non-object that is life. Within and beyond ourselves, there resides a boundless intelligence and an immensity that surpasses our own. But it's hard to know what to do when you become entangled in these group thoughts. A reduction in stature has occurred. What happens when you free yourself from this mental chatter is a profound shift. You begin to experience the beauty of life as it is, without the need for it to be any different. You reconnect with a deeper part of yourself, the part that is always present, always aware. This is the place where true peace exists. The ability to identify it inside oneself is, thus, a remarkable thing. Yeah, that's it. As you accept that this kind of thinking is at work, that you are reliant on the future, and that this fear can show up physically, you may feel a constriction in your muscles and your thoughts. True empowerment starts with knowing oneself. Break free from your current situation. The experience of seeing it is what you get out of it. On top of that, looking makes you do nothing. Everything we need to know is already here. Keep in mind that we discussed the significance of not making hasty judgments and instead acknowledging the transience of all things, including lives, forms, and phenomenal existences. Keep looking at it, and in this area as well, to consistently observe patterns inside oneself, rather than jumping to the conclusion that says, "You see, you're still in the dark. You will fail miserably. You are still meditating after 15 years. Do you understand? I don't see the point." According to the inner voice, it's probably best to just give up. The next step is to either come to a number of conclusions or to declare "I have arrived" and begin penning a book detailing your journey. Also, there are a plethora of additional findings. You got it. No one can use you. Oh my, you're at it again. You're returning to the workshop or retreat, if you prefer, after having already completed it. It's not worth it. This is too much for you to handle. If we only look at these patterns of observation, we could end up in the null. Considering the likelihood of it happening is usually unnecessary. One may make the case that all it takes to break such habits of thinking is to pay attention. For thousands of years, sages in India have used the term awakening to explain how perceptions of reality are subjective and ultimately meaningless. One who has woken is called a Buddha. Stay awake is a statement spoken by Jesus. Being attentive was what he was implying when he said, "Remain alert, do not fall asleep." There is a discernible shift in quality when you enter that stage of mind identification. It's similar to emerging from a deep sleep. Follows that people whose thoughts control their every action are actually experiencing lucid dreaming. It's the brainwashing, the dream into which you are essentially born. Bear in mind the lady I mentioned earlier today who moaned, "Welcome to my nightmare." So, it's kind of like an interconnected nightmare. Each person's hopes, fears, and life experiences are encoded into the collective programming. Eckhart Tolle, in his book The Power of Now, writes, "The past has no power over the present moment." This underscores the idea that we are often living in a continuous stream of thought and past influences, which clouds our perception of the present moment. Finding a way out of that sticky situation is the next step. You are already in a state of grace where the situation of the present is emerging, and that is the only reason you can attain that. This is something I can promise you from personal experience. Having gone through it myself, I can say that it is possible to break free of the state of total mental and temporal immersion into the limitless splendor and sacredness of now. Also, if you can't hold that pose for more than a couple of seconds, it won't do you any good. But you've made it. I said it in that way. You can leave, but you'll quickly realize that you can't get away from the here and now, and that happens frequently throughout the day. When you come out of that frame of mind, you might remark, "Oh, I've lost the now. Where is it?" Then, after you take a few deep breaths, you might feel energized and able to shut out your mind's chatter. You are now hypervigilant and simultaneously able to notice details that you were previously oblivious to due to your complete immersion in this. While going about their regular lives, most people are only partially aware of their surroundings due to mental chatter and the mind. The stunning natural scenery around us becomes more obscured as a result. A non-conceptual understanding is apparent to some of you as you step out into that state of alertness. While you sit here, your whole energy field is accessible to you. It is not necessary to give this very second any significance or classification in order to be in a state of awareness. In case you require them, you possess labels. Sometimes they're a must. Your information needs may be completely different, yet a simple "what's your name?" or "what's your phone number?" will yield the desired results irrespective. The liberation that follows from ceasing to continually categorize, judge, and interpret is, nevertheless, accomplished in line with the programming of your mind. Your bias toward interpretation, categorization, and judgment causes you to miss the mark when it comes to perceiving reality. You find what is to be unacceptable. Facts are being evaluated by you. The mind works in that way. To go along with it, there are nil factors that add to the worth of life. Embracing the beauty of life in every moment, no matter the circumstances, with empathy, love, a deep sense of vitality, a peaceful sense of vitality, a vibrantly alive tranquility. As Tolle reflects in A New Earth, the primary cause of unhappiness is never the situation, but your thoughts about it. These thoughts, judgments, and mental patterns often keep us trapped in an endless loop, distorting our perception of the world around us and preventing us from experiencing the true richness of life. The kind of lasting goodness that some people feel in their final moments on Earth, as opposed to the fleeting euphoria that accompanies it. In the moments leading up to their fatal tragedy, they suddenly break all of their habitual ways of thinking. Peace of mind and the knowledge that, despite appearances, everything is great on the inside. You shouldn't put off realizing it until something terrible happens. That is why genuine spiritual instruction is so profoundly moving and lovely. No, you don't have to wait for death. The possibility of realization is present at every level of death approaching, close and actual. So there's no need to wait for physical death, especially since you might not discern it even at that moment. Not everyone feels the same way. The beauty of spiritual teaching is that it teaches you that disaster and extreme pain are not necessary for your progress, and that you can attain your goal without either. Sudden breakdowns can occur when people's emotional and mental suffering becomes unbearable. It may be compared to a physical death, even though it's a psychological one. After all the suffering it has caused, the mental construct of me eventually breaks down and disappears. It's a substitute strategy. Therefore, life has provided all these paths. The outcome will be nothing short of death and suffering for you. It is quite beautiful. Consequently, you have a firm grasp on your essential identity. Last but not least, it teaches spiritual wisdom, divine direction of the highest order, but it can only be accessed by those who are open and willing. Alas, not everyone is now in that position. Death or excruciating pain must befall those who aren't ready to hear before they can comprehend. A few individuals are willing to pay attention. I need you to tell me what they are willing to hear. The idea that a disaster is not required to learn your identity is something they are ready to hear. Until you gain wisdom, you have no right to endure any additional psychological or emotional suffering. That you won't need any more time to get rid of it is the final message it conveys. That is the essence of spiritual teaching. You don't need more time. There is a conditioned part of every person's mind that is telling them, "No, I need more time to find myself, to be myself, to arrive to make it, to complete myself, to finish the story of me that is going through my head. This is the collective human mind speaking. Every day, it stays unfinished. Therefore, I need time. The conditioned mind is rife with messages that tell you, I need time. This psychological demand for future satisfaction is real. On an activity level, that is true. I need time because I'm not enough. I need more of this, more of that to complete myself. Also true. Everything does require time. To broaden one's horizons, learn something new, and venture into unknown terrain does require time. But they are not the issues here. In this context, knowing oneself refers to being genuine and cognizant of one's own individuality. Because of this, spiritual traditions state that you do not require more time to liberate yourself from the mind that has been conditioned for countless generations. Being timeless does not necessitate waiting a few more millennia to undo conditioning that has been built up over thousands of years. With less time, you can get more done. I am incredibly free. Spirited right now. At the very least, another 5,000 years would be required to dissolve that. Aside from the fact that more time is not required, the spiritual message also teaches that time is an illusion that prevents one from fully appreciating the here and now. Your essential being, including your innate energy, completeness, and essence, is here and fully realized right now. What matters is not how much time has passed. So, it really makes no difference how this realization strikes you. Since we shall all know death when we see it, one could argue that spiritual instructors and doctrines are ultimately superfluous. They look to be in a state of delusions and unconsciousness. But in reality, they are causing terrible agony to themselves and others on earth. Eventually, they will awaken when the pain they have caused becomes unbearable. Thanks to God's grace, the one existence that existed before form contains spiritual truths for those who are receptive to them. You don't need more time, and you have suffered enough. They say, meaning that the suffering was worthwhile. None of us would be here if we hadn't gone through at least a little of it. I certainly am not. So far, I am clueless. I hope that was clear. Everything seems to be going okay thus far. It's the reason you've gotten this far. At last, you can listen to the message and believe it. However, you would not have reached this point if the truth hadn't been nagging at you. But our conditioned thoughts also follow us around, even if they've been inactive for a while. It's not exactly in plain sight. At best, it's adequate. You have been drawn here by an immense force, and you have remained here by an even greater force, even though it endangers another part of you. What you've been taught to do by your society. Thought of being here while hearing the news of your own, or what you perceive as mine. Death is horrifying. The demise of an illusion is the cessation of associating with one's own identity, narrative, this, that problems, etc. On the other hand, you may occasionally sense the familiar wind rumbling within during the next few days. Do I even exist? My head is spinning. On the other hand, emotional distress. All of a sudden, the old collected pain is consuming your thoughts. Negative thoughts, whether directed at yourself or others, are triggered when your pain body is active. Look at them. They are not spiritual. I'm more spiritual. Look, they're just gossiping. That's not spiritual. Or they make the observation, oh, these people, they're so spiritual. They've been at it for years, and I've only been at it for a year. They know so much more than I. After that, someone asks, you don't want to be here. Where can I run to? If I can't physically escape, I'll try to escape to a terrible future that I'll face next week, along with a bunch of other things. Mentally practicing your response to the scenario is the next step. That is not the situation right now. Sitting under a tree is a metaphor for how simple life is. The intricacy of my life is. The intricacy of my life is entirely a product of my imagination. Since this very second is reality, it is simple to grasp. You might be finding the current scenario challenging for whatever reason. But as you surrender to this moment, you'll also find the fortitude to face any difficulties it brings. When you stay sidetracked and don't deal with it at all, you end up losing a lot of power. And that is the charm of it. When you accept what is and seize the present, you have access to power. Making the most of the present moment is the key to making the correct decision. One thing at a time is your attention. There will always be that one item that stands out and needs your attention, no matter how many you have piling up. This is something that you absolutely need to accomplish. When asked, "Can you explain the essence of Zen?" a Zen master famously said, "Doing one thing at a time." That, my friend, encompasses Zen. The idea of focusing on a single task at a time eliminates any room in one's brain for multitasking. Included in being completely present in the here and now is that fullness. It's constantly being completely present, rather than being somewhere else and desiring to be here. Nonetheless, it's that certain yes to the here and now, the one constant in all of existence. Furthermore, that makes your life worthwhile. In The Power of Now, Eckhart Tolle discusses how the present moment is the only moment that truly exists. He states, "Realize deeply that the present moment is all you ever have. In other words, the only thing we truly possess is this exact moment." Our attachment to the past and the future often steals us away from it, leading to unnecessary suffering. It's about shifting your consciousness to the now and breaking free from the illusion of time and future. Oriented thinking. That completeness is accompanied by tremendous power not derived from ego, but from intelligence, vigor, and, yes, compassion and love. Love flourishes when you're complete. As a result, it makes no difference where you are. You may simply be present. This is the here and now. So if it's a nasty place, you might as well sink headfirst into it. Actually, there's no guarantee that you'll remain stuck in that location you hate forever simply because you've given up on your internal resistance. In fact, the magic lies in tackling it directly, free from the internal strife that accompanies being alive, the no, and not only the kind of no that dwells on the negative aspects of the present or fantasizes about the ideal future. It also shows up as a resounding no in your energy systems, both mental and physical. Saying no to what is physically contracts your inner energy field. No. And that is how most people conduct their life. Therefore, one can experience a cerebral no, an emotional no, and a physical no, and a physical no in the shape of a contraction. Following that, you can say, okay, there's enough presence in you that you can now experiment and say, okay, I've lived with a no for 45 years, 50 years. I'll try something else now. Could you tell me? I'll try it out. So what's the big deal? Well, after a day or two of practicing, you might think, okay, let's see how I experience life when I say yes. Come internally to this moment. The problem is, you probably won't succeed since the no is deeply embedded in your thinking, your state of constriction, and your training. However, you are now mature enough to notice it. Finding the no and the contraction has just given you the key to liberation. There is already freedom for you. This is your cue to exit the room. Taking a quick glance around is the same as venturing outside. In A New Earth, Eckhart Tolle highlights the importance of surrendering to the present and accepting things as they are. He writes, "The acceptance of the present moment, of what is the end of all suffering. It is the end of all suffering. It is the beginning of the true self. It is the dissolution of the ego." By relinquishing our mental constructs of how things should be, we open ourselves to the flow of life and realize that the mind often stands as a barrier to peace. The practice of saying yes to the moment you are in, rather than resisting it, aligns with Tolle's teaching of living with acceptance, moving away from the ego's constant demands and judgments. It appears again. Embrace the present moment without striving for perfection. As one spiritual writer describes it, you will often find yourself in a state of no returning, which he calls living in Contraction City. Fortunately, you are on retreat and do not need to force yourself to be fully present at this time. If you are unable to manage this right now, there is no use in continuing. I don't think that's essential. You don't have to be in a yes frame of mind for the rest of the week. That's no small feat. What can I do to stay in the present moment for the rest of this week? Tolle's teachings suggest that we should practice compassion and patience with ourselves as we evolve into a state of presence. This process is not immediate, nor is it about attaining a perfect state. Shift is about awareness and gentle, consistent practice. In his book, The Power of Now, he reminds us, you are not your mind, encouraging us to distance ourselves from the mind's incessant chatter and instead to connect with our inner stillness. As we do this, we come to realize that peace is found in the present moment, not in a future that never quite arrives. Beauty lies in its non-necessity. This brief moment is all that is necessary. Being open and accepting at this right moment, rather than thinking about what's to come, is all that's needed. There is no way to go back to this moment. This one thing, in order to be aware of the accompanying details. Oh, there it is. The inner know, there it is. This can help you identify when you are in a contraction and allow you to relax into the feeling, even if it seems like an unpleasant mental or emotional state that is incompatible with enlightenment. You should still watch the outcomes of whatever occurred. Also, that does arise, and you're totally cool with it. Not a problem. We now accept this in any form it may take. In his book, The Power of Now, Eckhart Tolle writes, realize deeply that the present moment is all you have. Make the now the primary focus of your life. This aligns with the essence of this moment, accepting it as it is without resistance or desire to change it. Even in its discomfort, the present moment holds beauty, for it is all we truly have. If we reject the now, we miss out on life itself. Not trying to be someone you'd never want to be is therefore perfection. I need to become a master, a spiritual master. How am I going to get there? He inquires. Unless you're already a master and just really enjoying this, the only difference between you and the master is that the master is completely present, not resisting anything, and completely accepting of whatever the current moment brings. Forms are ever changing, and mastery is not conflict with, but rather complementary to the here and now. Therefore, the master is at one with the limitless energy that is inherent in everything and may even flow through it. Eckhart Tolle teaches that enlightenment isn't about achieving something, but about shedding the layers of the ego and embracing the now. As he says in A New Earth, you are not the voice in your head, but the one who is aware of it. True master does not cling to identity or self-image, but remains present, free from ego, and fully immersed in life as it unfolds. It's about accepting the flow of life, not striving to control it or mold it into something it isn't. The present moment holds the key to freedom from the constant chase for perfection. So, that's the only difference. In life, there is no such thing as a perfect standard. That is an additional significant problem, as if you didn't already have enough. Being in tune with whatever is now feeling a yes from you is all that's needed. Look who's an expert. That is why improving the current state of affairs is not a priority. Being in a state of acceptance, where you aren't striving to improve yourself whatsoever, can sometimes lead to that. You are not here with the intention of improving yourself. It is possible that some of you have been working on these heavy things for a long time. Well, is that ever going to come to an end? Is a question you can ask yourself if you consider yourself to have asked it. In his teachings, Tolle repeatedly reminds us that the desire to improve, to do more, to be more, is rooted in the ego, which keeps us from experiencing the fullness of the present moment. The ego, he explains, is a false self, created by mental and emotional patterns, and is always seeking to change, control, or escape the present. The key, as Tolle says in The Power of Now, is to drop the need for improvement. You are perfect as you are, in this very moment, and your value is not determined by your achievements, but by your presence in the here and now. In releasing the need to constantly improve, we stop fighting the current moment and begin to fully experience it as it is. On that level, you can keep improving forever. In any case, keeping in mind that this little life resides on a higher level, imperfection and all, is okay. It makes no difference. What I refer to as you is a thread that runs through my life story, interwoven with my stories of triumph and tragedy. You bestowed this name upon this entity, but you didn't choose it on your own. Nobody other than someone else wrote that on it. Eckhart Tolle's teachings resonate here. The idea that our identities are not who we truly are. As he says, you are not a person. You are not a person. You are a being, a field of consciousness. All the labels and stories we attach to ourselves are merely constructs, and none of them define us in our essence. True self transcends the narrative we tell about ourselves, a narrative shaped by society, past experiences, and other people's expectations. When we step back and detach from these identities, we experience a deeper truth, one that is unchanging and ever present. To the naked eye, certain bundles are more noticeable than others. A number of bundles of nasty, horrific things were tied onto me and then used as your base material. Feeling of unease and dread persisted even after I told myself, no, that's not enough. That's not really me. I'm really all those nice things in my bundle. And this was true regardless of how nice the contents of other people's bundles were. So, no matter how you adjust the bundle of me, adding anything won't make much of a difference. In his book, A New Earth, Eckhart Tolle elaborates on the concept of the pain body, which is the accumulation of emotional pain from the past that we carry with us. He explains that these bundles of emotional pain, the unresolved traumas and hurts, affect how we react to the present. Tolle encourages us to observe the pain body without judgment, understanding that it is not who we truly are. In doing so, we begin to dissolve the grip of these accumulated emotional energies. We can then choose not to identify with them, freeing ourselves from the past and embracing the present as it is. The more we observe without attachment, the more we dissolve the layers of the pain body. I want you to understand that I am not implying that you shouldn't put effort into bettering yourself. Learning new things is usually a good investment, so that makes sense. The point is, you won't be able to motivate yourself or even see a difference in your physical condition as a result of your exercises. It's easier said than done, but the hardest part is working on yourself. Your actions are perfectly acceptable. Despite my repeated requests that you give it up, I still don't think it will bring you any joy or fulfillment. Tolle explains that the seeking for external change often masks the true desire to shift our inner state. You cannot find happiness in the outer world because the outer world is an illusion. It's only in the present moment that you can find peace and joy. He writes in The Power of Now, our desire to improve is often tied to the idea that happiness or fulfillment lies just out of reach, in a future that we can never seem to reach. Tolle encourages us to let go of this constant striving and simply accept the present as it is, knowing that true joy comes from within, not from external accomplishments. The term that best describes the results of settling for a life full of painful events that you probably did not like is bad karma in Eastern philosophy. At least it got you here. In my opinion, it wasn't that bad. We were successful in our endeavor. If you have a good bundle of things like me, you will go to your grave quicker than someone with a lousy bundle of things. I was lucky. My bundle popped when it happened, and it wasn't even great. Karma, as Eckhart Tolle describes in his teachings, is not something to fear or avoid, but a reflection of our state of consciousness. Karma is the reaction of the ego, Tolle explains in A New Earth. The more we identify with the ego, the more we accumulate karmic debt, which keeps us trapped in cycles of suffering. The path to freedom is not about avoiding karma, but transcending the ego, becoming more present, and stepping out of the reactionary patterns of the past. This is how we break free from the cycle of suffering and karma. Therefore, you can use your time here to perfect your mastery abilities. No way. I am not suggesting that you should assume a superior role. I don't think you're acting. When you align with reality, even if it's just for a moment, you can feel completely in control. That wraps it up, I suppose. Suddenly, you're back, and before you know it, you're no longer a master. When you start to notice the yes appearing in what would normally be considered unpleasant, undesirable, or even completely unacceptable, or when you start to have more and more yeses in situations that would normally evoke a strong no, you will begin to understand the power of this phenomena. Tolle explains that true mastery is not about domination or control, but about acceptance and surrender. Surrender is the simple but profound wisdom of yielding to rather than opposing the flow of life, he writes. When we stop resisting what is and embrace the flow of life with an open heart, we align with the universal energy that flows through us and the world. This state of acceptance, this ability to say yes to the present moment, brings about true mastery. It's not about fighting the present, but about merging with it, experiencing the fullness of life as it unfolds. These things happen in the present moment. Bad things truly do happen. I have a sticker that means something like this. I'm paraphrasing when terrible things happen. The most important thing is to accept what happened, be in the present moment, and say yes to what is without making any compromises. So, you won't have to depend on this bad thing that appears at this same moment. No matter how big or small, external events, bad emotions, or internal struggles are all accepted exactly as they are. In such a situation, the majority of individuals seek solace in their histories. Dwelling on or discussing the past is their go-to method for evading the present moment. Following is going to be difficult to put into words, so I will simply state that when something is completely embraced, one becomes very conscious of the present moment. Nothing matters more than the present moment, because you're more in tune with a field beneath, a spaciousness. Whatever happens, happens. No matter how wonderful or horrible it is, you now know more. No one notices it at first. There is an enigmatic, calming component present in the backdrop. Despite all that's happening, there seems to be a sense of tranquility at first. You begin to see the present moment more and more as a vast expanse, apart from any particular feeling or incident that may be occupying it. The essence of it all lies in that. That is the essence of all the esoteric and spiritual knowledge that has been handed down through the ages. Everyone needs a new viewpoint every generation, but no one has ever put it precisely like that before. It may also be difficult to mentally try to understand. Do your best to catch it. Words just serve to point. Eckhart Tolle, in his book, The Power of Now, describes this experience as the state of presence, where all forms and identifications dissolve into a field of awareness. He writes, "Realize deeply that the present moment is all you ever have. Make the now the primary focus of your life. This is precisely what you are experiencing, the vastness of the present moment, which is the essence of peace and stillness, untouched by any specific event or feeling. The immensity and vitality of the here and now, where everything happens, becomes acutely apparent to you. How would you describe the spaciousness? You are not required to seize it or pursue it. It is already present. You will find it simply by releasing your grip. By letting go, the roominess can be revealed. Whether it's a feeling or a happening, pleasant or bad, magnificent or horrible, simply allow it to be. Why? Because it has your consent. Yes, you do not oppose it. When people face and overcome adversity, it strengthens their sense of identity. or me. This me gains confidence in its position in the world as a result of its increased resilience. Your inflated feeling of self will be reinforced if you refuse to acknowledge reality. A lot of people do it because it gives them a sense of strength, or me strength. Everyone is looking out for number one, themselves. Rejecting the status quo is a way for them to strengthen their identity. In a way, it accomplishes its purpose. Their illusion grows stronger. They try to improve their mood, but it has the opposite effect. Still, the phrase, "I feel better now," "now I know who I am," is used throughout. As soon as you accept reality as it is, the little me starts to worry that its psychological shape, its form identity, will escape. Its pliability and responsiveness increase as it seeks a more stable sense of identity. So that's it. Form, in whatever form it may take, is transcended when control is let go of. When you let go, you enter the vastness. Beyond that, it clarifies that nothing outside of yourself can define who you really are. This solid form, isn't it? On a psychological level, it is not me. Eckhart Tolle's wisdom reinforces this by noting that the mind is a superb instrument if used rightly. Used wrongly, however, it becomes very destructive. To become conscious of the present moment and to drop the mind's obsession with form and identity is the ultimate freedom. The illusion of self-strengthening, which often reinforces the ego, dissolves when you stop identifying with thoughts and forms. This process brings about liberation, where you experience peace and expansiveness beyond your usual psychological boundaries. In addition, a tremendous sense of liberation emerges out of nowhere. You can still get that while you're behind bars. It is possible that a complete liberation from the limitations of a reactive relationship with forms may come to fruition. Actually, it's the exact reverse. It indicates that you are still facing challenges. No matter how unprompted you are, you always come up with an excellent response. This is incredibly challenging to discuss since, strangely enough, every word has a shape. It alludes to something else. Your practice sessions would be ideal in this picturesque setting. Here, you can climb the trees or just take a leisurely walk around the lawn in this little paradise. And you notice there's a central aspect that you don't grasp. Those shapes are beautiful in their own right, but they don't make up the whole. That, like an underground field of tranquility, is tangible. Very little of this should be on your radar. At this point, doing any action will not advance you toward your objective. Your time here will be for naught. If you come to this world with the belief that you are here to achieve a state, then dwelling on the past, the future, your efforts, your struggles, and your discontent will get you nowhere. Observation is all you are. Learn to live in the now more fully. As Eckhart Tolle reminds us in A New Earth, the primary cause of unhappiness is never the situation but your thoughts about it. The obsession with past or future and with the striving for a future state creates unnecessary suffering. In this state of observation and presence, you can see clearly that there is no need to chase anything outside of the present. By simply being, everything unfolds as it is meant to. How much time will pass? Finds out what is being thought about here. Both yes and no. Time exists in the real world, without a doubt. At this very moment, we all meet together. Here we will remain for the time being. However, a deeper facet of the eternal is hinted at by it all. There are multiple ways in which that same teaching presents itself. Most of the forms have been around for a while. Looking into ancient teachings may lead you to the same message, but you have to remove the cultural baggage of the lesson, the foreign languages, and the strange words from the message. Something similar is starting to take shape here, at least to some degree. I am not ignoring the previous lessons. Not only are they visually beautiful, but once you extract their essence, they will continue to serve your purpose. The only difference is that this lesson may use a bit more positive reinforcement. Eckhart Tolle's work often emphasizes the universality of this teaching, which transcends cultural and temporal boundaries. His teachings are, in essence, a return to the timeless wisdom embedded in all spiritual traditions. As he writes, "You are not the voice in your head, you are the one who hears it. By moving beyond the mind's constant chatter, you come to realize that the essence of being is far more expansive and fulfilling than the transient, noisy forms we cling to." Spiritual wisdom of the past, when stripped of its cultural trappings, conveys this universal truth, the importance of being here now, fully aware and accepting of the present moment. Because, there are pros and cons to this. As I was about to mention, time is crucial in more ways than one. One good thing is that time is running out. When the conventional wisdom surfaced, they had more than enough time. We could afford to remain mad and unconscious for a few more millennia. Perhaps we still have 100 years to think and do absolutely crazy things before we're finished. By the time Earth reaches its limit, humanity will have caused so much devastation that they will have violently terminated their own existence. Would it be possible to silence anything by turning it off? We are free to savor the vastness of peace. Calmness ultimately emanates from inside. The peace and quiet outside, though, can be a blessing. Considering how advanced our technology is, I assume some background noise is inevitable. By drawing your attention to the stillness, you can discover a realm of serenity underlying the chaos. When you're in your mind, the sounds that come out are usually all you can hear. That would capture your interest and hold your undivided attention. Typically, individuals disregard the stillness that envelops them, from which noises eventually originate and into which they subsequently recede. The tranquil field, the basic ground-level field. In his book, The Power of Now, Eckhart Tolle describes this concept perfectly. The primary cause of unhappiness is never the situation but your thoughts about it. We often get lost in the chaos of our minds, believing that the noise and turmoil around us define our state of being. But when we pause and allow ourselves to shift our focus from the external sounds to the deeper, more subtle stillness that underpins them, we begin to recognize the peace that has always been there, waiting for us to tune into it. The challenge lies not in finding the stillness, but in choosing to focus on it, to give it our attention. Thus, as you stroll about the natural area here, you won't hear a thing. As an exercise, I propose paying more attention to the vastness of quiet than to any sound you could ever hear. No matter what, the sounds are beautiful when they're unaltered. There is a great deal of background noise during the night because many small organisms awaken and create noise. Furthermore, a fundamental field exists. One may argue that it serves as the backdrop for the creation of the sounds. Behold, the serene field. Because of that, you consider it. Japanese flute is one musical style that conveys that. I wonder if we didn't hear it earlier today. Perhaps a bit more will be revealed here. The noises stand in for the silence that surrounds them. It is music of the most ethereal kind when its sole purpose is to make the listener lose track of time and focus on the silence. The beautiful thing about listening to and paying attention to stillness is that it helps one to calm their mind. The silence will be inaudible unless you do this. Whatever comes out of the silence, be it a form or a sound, is all that the mind can concentrate on. The first step beyond thinking is to pay attention to silence. You can't focus on silence with your mind, plain and simple. There is nothing to think about because it is formless and has no substance. As Eckhart Tolle emphasizes in A New Earth, the more you are able to be present with what is, the more spaciousness you will experience in your life. By letting go of the constant mental chatter and instead allowing ourselves to be with what is, to embrace the now as it is, we open ourselves to an expansive sense of peace that exists beyond the surface of thoughts and feelings. This spaciousness is not something we can grasp or control. It is simply the natural state of being that emerges when we stop resisting the present moment. The little device can take you to the other side of reality, to a place called spaciousness. Again, on top of that, taking a leisurely stroll through nature will elevate your sensation of being there. Looking out into that vast expanse of peace allows one to experience the profound serenity that is inherent in all of nature. Moreover, that extends beyond the paperwork. All these forms originate from a single, unified whole, a field, and they are all beautiful in their own way. That is the essence of sacredness in a nutshell. Your own ideas are simply entering your mind, creating the sounds you perceive. Just as noises arise from silence, so too can inner stillness or pure awareness prior to thinking. A few of minor things. I called them bridges if you wanted to hear me say it. Sometimes the most powerful gateway is just letting this particular moment exist. More than that, it is shapeless. Another way in is to just listen, especially in natural environments. More than that, it is shapeless. By the way, it's possible that you won't always find absolute silence in this culture. Sometimes it could be hard to find a peaceful place. However, you might be shocked to hear that, even in the busiest places, there is a field of tranquility that can be felt beneath the surface. Internal changes are the first and most important. And in the end, it doesn't matter. You can still discover inner peace, even while you're in the middle of a chaotic city, with all the cars and people surrounding you. That tranquility is yours when you make peace with the world as it is. Ignoring everything else, the repeated sound persists. This inquiry explored the profound idea of fully accepting the present moment in all its forms as a path to inner freedom and contentment. No matter how difficult the feeling, the external force, or even the illness, the importance of saying yes without resistance was underlined. Total acceptance of the here and now revealed a spaciousness and calmness that transcended the ephemeral forms and feelings that arose. Being completely present in the present moment, free from worries about the past or the future, is the source of true freedom, according to this ideology. The importance of internal and external periods of calm and serenity as entrances to this elevated state of consciousness was further highlighted. In the end, it aimed to make people feel more connected to being alive by teaching them to live in the now and less reactive to the ups and downs of life. By embracing the moment as it is without resistance, we enter into a deep state of presence and awareness. This is the essence of what Eckhart Tolle teaches in both The Power of Now and A New Earth. The now is all we have, and in fully accepting it, we step into a realm of peace that transcends the noise and chaos of the world around us. It is not about eliminating external disturbances, but rather about transforming our relationship with them, allowing the vastness of the present to be our true reality. Stop wasting time and make every moment count in your life. Subscribe to Motivation Basics for daily motivational videos on personal growth. Show your commitment by liking the video and commenting the word GROW. Be sure to share it with someone who needs to slow down in life. We're in this together.